Team, welcome back to the channel, man. Let me first just start by saying I appreciate the support. Today's video, let me offer you some context. We're going to be taking a look at the ultra wide functionality in the all new 2022 LG G2 C2 OLEDs. This feature is probably going to be present in some other models, but I own the C2 and I know that it has the same feature set as the G2. And so about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago on the channel, I'll card in a video. I actually posted a video going a little bit into what you could do with ultra wide and how it looked and how it felt and how you can get it activated. Well, now that I've had the TV here a couple of weeks later, I feel it would be only right if I revisited this feature set just to kind of talk to you about optimization and some of the feature sets that you should be looking for, some of the settings that you really need to dive into if you're going to be using this on your gaming PC. This is a new feature that's out of the box, able to be used for the 2022 models. There was not a backwards firmware update that implemented it as an automatic feature in the C1. And so it's going to be very specific to this TV, the way that I'm going to show you how you use it. So we're going to roll my intro. We're going to get right into it. As I said, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for coming by. Please be sure to leave a like any point of this video if you find it informative or helpful. So my intentions in this video is just to kind of cover a couple of baseline settings that you need to go through, both with the LG C2 G2 OLED, as well as your gaming PC on both ends of the spectrum. There's things you need to do to make these feature sets talk. So we'll cover a little bit. So this video is going to have some talking point. I've placed the camera in a way where I think I'm giving you optimal screen real estate so that you can see what's going on. I'm also going to attempt to measure from my 55-inch what I am getting from a diagonal perspective in terms of screen real estate with the different aspect ratios that was requested by one subscriber. So do know that your comments are very valuable and they do offer me an attempt to create content, right? So let's get right into this. So when you set up the LG C2 G2 OLED out of the box, Game Optimizer is not going to be turned on. We know this if we hit the settings on the remote. This is a feature. Game Optimizer being the feature is something that's present on the C1, G1, the C2, G2, and also some 2021 models did have this too, but we're just covering the premium tier of the OLED spectrum. So when we hit settings, we don't have the Game Optimizer bar at the bottom, okay? It's actually turned off, like it's not there. Game Optimizer, when you go to that feature set, you see that it's on here, but you don't get the hub at the bottom that you would want to. We can also see that we have variable refresh rate turned off. And the reasoning for that is because on the PC side of things, there are some settings we need to go to kind of soft calibrate this to pick up. So what we want to do, I'm on a Windows 10, Windows 11. I have my computer set for dual boot. You'd right click. You want to also make sure that you have the latest NVIDIA drivers. Forgive me, AMD users, this tutorial or video is not going to speak to your graphics cards. Once you have NVIDIA control panel active, you can select that. And so couple of different feature sets you have here. Your TV by default is going to start at a 60 hertz refresh rate. This is what the C2, G2, C1, G1 is going to see your panel as natively through this HDMI. You've got two different settings. You've got TV resolution, the native being 3840 by 2160. And then when you scroll down, you have a PC column. So because we're on the TV column of things, our highest max refresh rate is going to be 60 hertz and the lowest is going to be 23 hertz. Okay. That's applied. And so again, you're not going to be able to take advantage of having your Game Optimizer hub where you would want it to be present. You can see right now, variable refresh rate is off, low latency is off, and we're locked at a 60 hertz or 60 frames per second. Okay. When we go down to the PC side of things, you'll see what I just showed you a little while ago. You'll be met also with a couple of different refresh rates, 100 hertz or 120 hertz. We're obviously going to set for the native. We've got double the refresh rate going. So things are going to be much more smooth. Now, when we go down to set up G-Sync, this is all going to be in the display tabs on NVIDIA control panel. Number one is going to be apply the following changes. So the top column is going to be for you to enable G-Sync or G-Sync compatible. This TV is going to classify under what's called G-Sync compatible. What G-Sync is a physical module that is going to be in place in specific monitors. Okay, I do have an LG 38-inch ultra wide. It's a 3840 by 1600 aspect ratio or resolution, a 21 by 9 aspect ratio, and it has a native G-Sync module. Without me overly confusing and complicating things in this video, I don't want to really have to go into explaining the differences between an active module and a compatible display, but we want to click this. Because you're using a compatible display, I also encourage you to click enable windowed and full screen mode. So it doesn't matter what the content is, you're going to have that G-Sync activated. Once we hit apply, the graphics card is going to send a signal, an intimate signal to the display to let you know it's active. From there, once we hit the settings tab, now we actually have the game optimizer hub where we want it to be. And so because of this, now we can take advantage of different settings. We see that we have variable refresh rate turned on, or G-Sync. We also have our black stabilizer and low latency is active. Another subscriber, and I'll go ahead and channel in on answering this question, asked me how I was able to get this active and to have it not showing G-Sync. Well, let's go to that setting right now, and we're going to get into the ultra wide settings of things in just a second. But on Windows 11, it's a little different from Windows 10, but I'm on 11. We're going to go to settings, system, display. Then you're going to go down to graphics. When you go to graphics, you want to go to change default graphics settings. When you click this, you've got a couple of great options here. Top is going to be hardware accelerated GPU scheduling. This is a great feature that reduces some latency. This TV does a phenomenal job on being low for input latency, but this does really help, especially if you're not rocking like premium GPU hardware. Then you've got your VRR. It says, when possible, get a higher frame rate and reduce screen tearing in games that don't support variable refresh rate by default. You might need to restart your game for this to take effect. Now, again, this is a setting within the software on the computer. It has nothing specific to do with the TV, but you will notice that when you go to Game Optimizer, and I'll show you one of the opportunities when you click Game Optimizer, is going to be telling you that you can turn on variable refresh rate and G-Sync, right? So if you had a TV, which this is the only TV, or LG has the only TVs that are certified to be compatible for NVIDIA G-Sync, they're going to be the only ones to take advantage of it. So VRR for the PC side of things is something you'll be able to take advantage of on select Sony TVs, select Samsung TVs, and so forth. And then I do recommend turning on auto HDR. Now the TV, the ones that we're talking about within this video, does have an automatic setting where it will automatically detect HDR and it'll force that content to display what's going to be specific for HDR. But having this is kind of like a cushion because you're telling your operating system to do that also. So those are some baseline features or settings that we do need to have active that I do encourage. Now we're going to transition from here to go to talking about the different aspect ratios and optimal resolutions within them for these TVs. All right, so at this point, this video's got some depth. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of talking. If you find it helpful, hey, go ahead and like. I'm trying to grow, man, and you guys are doing a good job of supporting me. So do appreciate it. And I'll continue to put these videos out as long as it's being supported and as long as I feel like people are enjoying it. With that said, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and play around with some aspect ratio options, okay? So in order to do this on the newer TVs, you're going to hit the settings tab. It's going to bring up your game hub. You're going to go to Game Optimizer. And what's changed from this feature set versus the last year models, the G1, the C1, is that you have this tab here that says picture. This is not present even with the latest current, as of this recording, firmware updates on those TVs. When you go to picture, you have your presets for like your picture quality settings. You've got your black stabilizer, your white stabilizer. You can reset all of these things. And then they're all separated with this line, right? So this is where you're going to get down to more manual controls. your contrast, black level, sharpness, color depth, and your DTM. For most games, I recommend turning DTM on, but this is what we're really focusing on. The aspect ratio, 16:9, obviously is going to be your typical fill up your screen, doesn't matter what screen size you are. Okay, and then you can adjust advanced picture settings. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you, and I did cover this in the previous video, is that for each aspect ratio, the TV treats this like it's an HDMI input. So for 16:9, whatever advanced picture settings I have, they're always going to be saved for 16:9. It's going to be the same as if I went to 21:9 and also 32:9. Okay, so whenever you go to these for the first time, you will need to pre-calibrate or soft calibrate your settings to your liking. Okay, so what you have on 16:9 will not carry over to 21 or 32:9. So here we are on 21:9 aspect ratio. Variable refresh rate is turned on. FPS is showing still 120 hertz. Black stabilizer is there. Low latency is there. So the reason that I don't see the screen position as an option, it's grayed out, is because I need to actually modify the resolution of the TV. Now my icons have gotten much smaller down here and there because it is seeing that it's in ultra wide mode, but I still need to actually change the resolution of the TV. Okay. And again, to do this, you're going to go back to that NVIDIA control panel. Once you have this pulled up, you're going to go to change resolution. I am still locked at 3840 by 2160, which is why I have the full screen being pushed. Okay. So the cool thing about PC is that it's always going to let you know whatever the native is. You also do have the opportunity to force and push things. I was talking about an LG monitor that I have. You know, it's 3840 by 1600. Beautiful display. You can force this TV to see pretty much any custom resolution that you want, but we want to go with optimal settings. Optimal settings for this TV in this orientation and 21:9 is going to be 2560 by 1080. We're going to apply that. Once we apply that, now we see we do have our black bars. Okay, we've got our black bars. So let me start my measurements first. From diagonal, which is where the class of the TV is measured, typically you're looking at about 52 inches. Top to bar, about 4 inches. About another 4 inches, okay? So to answer the question to the subscriber, you're about 52 inches, right? Diagonal, and you're 4 inches here and there. Okay, so within this setting, you have 3 different refresh rates. You can do 60 hertz, 100 hertz, and 120 hertz. I'm using an RTX 3090. It will be able to run virtually anything max settings in this resolution and this refresh rate. 100% bar none. Now you can force any resolution that you want to, but keeping in mind the native one is going to give you optimal settings, and this is what I'd recommend for optimal settings. Okay, we still have G-Sync turned on, right? That is going to be present there. You can mess around, go from 120 to 100 hertz. You can do any of these options, right? Screen is going to read that, right? So good feature set. This is a really cool feature. Now we're going to check one of the settings that was blacked out just a few seconds ago. So we'll go back to the game optimizer, picture, and we want to go down to where we have aspect ratio. As you can see now, screen position, I can position it mid, top, or bottom. Okay, so we're going to go top. And the reason I'm going to suggest that you can tinker around with top is if you are in a position where you're not close to a keyboard and mouse. Like, for example, when I'm playing and actually using this, I'm sitting back about 5 feet in my chair that I'm at right now. I'm only this close right now because I'm actually trying to type out and use this in a normal desktop orientation. When you set this to top, as you can see, you get a little bit more screen real estate. Understanding that you don't need to have this on all the time, but this does kind of help with this. One thing I think would be nice is if you could drop down this hub a little bit. Like there's about 2 inches there where if I could drop this hub down, this would be absolutely perfect. So you can have this top and then this low. Like this would be really good. Like if they position and made like a firmware update where you could modify you being able to raise this or lower this hub right here. But this is how you want to play your games. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open a game and just show you some more things that you need to be considering. Right. So we got Ghostwire Tokyo. This is a very colorful game. Very nice for testing sequences. I did make a video of this. I'll try to card it in which I just kind of let some footage play. But what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to tinker around with the resolution settings with this game. And what we want to do is we want to follow what we actually have. So 2560 by 1080. So with this game, as you can see, if you make it full screen, it's going to attempt to stretch things. So you want to go window full screen. Each game is going to be a little bit different, right? So this is actually it definitely is ultra wide. So again, if you don't understand what ultra wide is, typically if I were playing this game, like my cutoff would be here, even though the screen would be full. I'd pretty much, my vision would be like right here. So like the amount of the door that I can see further to the right or the left on the screen is the advantage to ultra wide functionality. You know, so it's a cool feature, something, you know, you can take advantage of if you want to play around with, you know, splitting the screen, getting more content on the screen. There's some really cool things that you can do with this. There's some cool games worth trying out, testing out. Within the actual video that I did prior to this one about this feature, I used Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is a game that works really well with it. But yeah, so let's switch on over to the 32 by 9 and see how that is. All right, so we're gonna head back to the desktop, NVIDIA control panel. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to the game optimizer, go over to picture, scroll down to the aspect ratio opportunities. We want to try 32 by 9 now. And again, NVIDIA control panel is going to let us know what native is. Now the cool thing is that your PC settings will also save because I've done this prior. With this, you are going to have 3840 by 1080 as your native. You put this at 120 Hertz and it's going to be overly saturated. It really is. It's like a halo effect to everything. So you want to set this at 100 Hertz. It's going to be the recommendation. 100 Hertz is going to get you a sweet spot. This is going to be 3840 by 1080. So essentially two 1080p panels is what you're looking at. We are about 50 inches with 32 by 9 aspect ratio. We are 7 inches top and bottom. Those are our measurements. So 50 inches, 7 inches, 7 inches. So 14 inches worth of screen real estate gone from the top and the bottom, excuse me. But it is present. Icons look really clear and sharp. My background image looks like shit because it is a 16 by 9 4K image. So you would obviously want to focus on getting, you know, a screensaver that's going to have a default resolution to mirror what your expectations are. We are running at 100 Hertz though. Let us see if we can get a game to support what we are trying to achieve here. So let me try to load something up. And here we are with Resident Evil Village, or 8, running at 3840 by 1080. This is nice looking. Yeah, so I mean, the screen it's a screen to screen situation. Everything I can see minus the very small bezel on the side. And let's see if I can adjust this. What I'm going to do is raise the screen, the position of the screen to top. All right, so just if I wanted to be able to test and play around with this, like, I don't know for what reason you'd want to, but like I can perfectly see everything on the screen. It's running obviously 120 frames, but I mean, I showed this game running native 4K, so my system is pretty BD. But yeah, this is awesome. So like I said, you want to try to get optimal out of this. And I'm sorry this video is so long, but to get optimal out of this, you want to follow what the computer's telling you the native resolution is. You want to follow with actually putting your game in that resolution if it supports it. If you go full screen and it doesn't, then you just kind of know that it doesn't work for that game, that title. So if you guys got any questions, please let me know. I thought that it would be kind of cool to show this running optimal and what type of settings you should be looking for. Please leave any likes, comments, you know, share, subscribe, hit notification bell, all of that to support me. We're trying to grow. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace, God bless, max love.